Long ago, before the sun learned to set and the moon learned to rise, the vast land of Nyanda was a place where spirits and humans walked the earth together. Rivers shimmered with the laughter of water spirits. Mountains hummed with ancient drums, and the trees whispered prophecies to any who dared to listen. But peace never rests forever. From the deepest crevice in the world, the maw of the forgotten, a shadowy creature called Obkalu, the devourer of voices, crawled back into the world. It sought to swallow all music, stories, and names, for these were the sources of human power. When the songs of Nyanda fell silent, fear settled like dust over the land. In that time of gloom, destiny gathered 6 unlikely heroes, misfits with little in common except courage. Lightning split the sky open as Zuri hit the ground hard, rolling through dust and shattered roots while the shadow beast lunged again. Its jaws gnashed in total silence. No snarl, no breath, not even the scrape of teeth. Silence from a creature that should scream was always wrong, deeply wrong. Zuri pushed herself upright, sparks jumping from her fingertips as she gasped. Makuzi, on your left. The giant moved, too slow. The beast's black tendrils whipped toward him. But Makuzi planted his basalt fists into the earth, and the ground itself rose in a protective wall just as the tendrils struck. Stone exploded around him. He grunted, not in fear but annoyance. Another one, he rumbled. Tando appeared behind Zuri in a blur, breathless and grinning. Well, they're multiplying. Lovely. Anything else you forgot to warn us about? I didn't summon them, she snapped, lightning crackling around her throat. But I can finish them. Before she could unleash her voice, the air around them collapsed into a crushing vacuum. Even the wind held its breath. Every cricket, every leaf, every distant echo vanished, as if devoured by an invisible mouth. And then they heard it, the last desperate cry of the sunbird being swallowed whole. Omalika's eyes widened, reflecting the sky like a mirror. It's happening, she whispered. The devourer is rising. Zuri turned toward the distant horizon, heart pounding. Dawn should have been blooming gold. Instead, a thick darkness crawled upward, swallowing color, swallowing warmth, swallowing sound itself. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Kshengo lowered his spear with a stiff hand, lightning flickering up his arm. We move. Now. They ran, every stride shaking with dread. Even Tando's cocky smirk faded as the land ahead dipped into night. When they reached the cliff overlooking Dawnspire Ridge, they froze. The sunbird was losing its melody. Its wings, usually blazing with sunrise, flickered weakly, embers falling like dying stars. A massive shadow crawled from the maw below, its limbs writhing with stolen voices. Mouths stretched across its body, all open in silent hunger. Obkulu, Zuri whispered, and even the name seemed afraid to leave her lips. The creature swallowed the final note of the sunbird. Dawn choked, darkness spread, and the sunbird fell. Zuri's knees weakened. She felt Makuzi's hand steady her, heavy and warm but trembling. No one spoke. There were no words. Only the hollow ringing of a world losing its voice. Night fell in the middle of the morning. Hours later, the 6 of them stood beneath the great baobab, its ancient branches glowing faintly with spirit light. But even the sacred tree shivered with unease. Tando paced, kicking stones out of frustration. Villages have gone silent. Completely silent. Even the drums aren't responding. Drums. Do you understand the insult? The instruments themselves are refusing to speak. Kshengo slammed the butt of his spear into the ground. Then we hunt Obkalu. We end it. We can't. Omalika's voice was barely a breath. She held her shard of moonlit mirror close, its surface swirling with shifting visions. Not yet. Makuzi frowned. Why? Because we would not survive. Not as we are. Her gaze drifted to the others, sorrow softening her features. We must take the long road. Through Nyanda's sacred places. Through the desert, the plateau, the forests, the river, all the way to the storm peaks and the valley of roaring ghosts. Tando groaned. So, a little stroll through half the continent. Wonderful. Zuri stepped closer to Omalika. If we do this, can we win? Omalika hesitated. Too long. Yes, but the mirror shows a cost. One of us may not return. Silence, true silence, pressed against them. Nalo's eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. It won't be any of you, she whispered fiercely. I won't allow it. Zuri took her hand gently. No one wants this fate. But if it chooses one of us, we face it together. Shango lifted his chin. Then it is decided. For Nyanda. For every story ever told, Makuzi added solemnly. For the lost voices, Zuri whispered. For the adventure, Tando added, though his voice shook. For each other, Nalo finished softly. And so they began. Their first trial greeted them the moment they stepped into the whispering desert. The air shimmered with ghosts of forgotten stories. Voices drifted like sand, half-spoken words, names, memories, all tugging at their minds. Zuri kept humming lightly to drown them out, but even her lightning-laced voice wavered. Makuzi walked ahead, massive form shielding them from the swirling dunes. Stay behind me, he warned. The desert seems alive today. The wind twisted sharply, gathering into a vortex behind him. Tando's eyes widened. By the spirits, is that a tornado formed instantly, its spiraling face twisted with mischief and malice. It lunged. Zuri didn't hesitate. She let out a sharp note. Blue lightning exploding from her throat, slicing the tornado in half. The sandstorm collapsed, revealing an ancient fortress buried beneath the dunes. Nalo gasped. A hidden oasis. The desert was disguising it. Omalika murmured. Testing us. Inside the fortress, torchlight flickered across old murals describing the first battle against Abkalu, how it swallowed countless songs until one warrior offered their voice willingly to trap it. Zuri's breath caught. So the sacrifice. Yes, Omalika whispered. That is the cost. The fortress rumbled suddenly, dust showering them as shadows stirred. We leave, Shango ordered. Now, they fled, emerging back into blazing sunlight, only to find the plateau of echoes waiting in the distance. Makuzi placed his stone hands on the cliffside, closing his eyes. The spirits here know our purpose, he murmured, but they require strength. The earth split open as towering stone spirits emerged, rune-covered bodies shifting like living mountains. They roared silently, an eerie vibration that made Zuri's bones rattle. Makuzi stepped forward. Let me speak to them. Speak, Tando sputtered. Makuzi, they don't even have. Makuzi charged forward and grappled the nearest spirit, wrestling it with thunderous force. Zuri jumped back. Makuzi, but he only laughed through the struggle. This is their language. After a brutal contest, the spirits bowed, granting safe passage. Tando panted. Remind me never to shake your hand. They continued toward the cyclone forest, where the air immediately thickened with swirling winds. Tiny wind spirits popped into existence, small, glowing, mischievous. Tando, one squealed. Trickster boy, another chimed. Come play. He groaned. Spirits, save me. They remember me. The spirits surged, forming a cyclone. Tando darted into action, weaving through branches, flipping over roots, ducking and leaping with impossible agility. The winds chased him like delighted children. Finally, he snatched a glowing wind token from the cyclone's heart, bowing dramatically. Your winds, he told the team, panting. Our shortcut later. But Omalika's face had gone pale, her eyes locked on her mirror shard. The vision sharpens, she whispered. One of us will fall at the maw. Fear rippled through the group. Yet they walked on, because destiny demanded it. The forest winds eventually softened, giving way to the quiet glow of the Mirror River. The water shone like polished glass, reflecting not their appearances but their fears. As the group approached the riverbank, Zuri stopped abruptly. Her reflection was silent. Her voice, her gift, was gone in the water's image. She stumbled back, breath catching. Why can't I hear myself? Makuzi knelt beside the river, frowning at his reflection, which showed him cracking like old stone. "These waters show our endings," he murmured. "Not the truth, only the thread of truth." Nalo approached hers hesitantly. In the river, she saw herself kneeling alone in darkness, calling out for help that never came. Tears welled in her eyes, but she swallowed them back and whispered, "I'm not meant to be alone. Not anymore." Shango stared into the water with rigid shoulders. His reflection showed lightning devouring him from the inside, consuming him with the same hunger as Abkulu. He dropped his gaze immediately. "This place plays tricks. Keep moving." Tando knelt, peering at the water with one eye squinted. His reflection showed him running, not away from danger, but away from his team, away from responsibility. He stood abruptly, brushing his hands together as though dusting away the vision. Clearly broken river. Terrible craftsmanship. But Omalika didn't step forward. Her mirror shard glowed violently in her hand, humming with a rhythm that felt like a heartbeat out of sync. Zuri touched her arm gently. "What do you see?" Omalika closed her eyes, jaw trembling. "Nothing I can bear to say." Before Zuri could respond, the river split open with a violent hiss. Water rose upward like a wall, forming a towering serpent made entirely of reflections, faces shifting across its scales, each face gasping soundlessly. The serpent struck. Makuzi dove in front, arms raised to protect the others as the creature slammed into him with enough force to shatter boulders. He slid backward several feet, but held his ground, stone skin cracking. Shango hurled his spear, lightning trailing behind it. The serpent absorbed the strike, glowing brighter with every spark. "It feeds on everything," Omalika shouted. "Even our power." Tando dashed forward, leaping onto a rock and flipping onto the serpent's back, slashing with twin daggers. The blade strikes did nothing. They simply created more ripples of reflected faces. "It's copying us," he yelled. Zuri's breath tightened as her mind raced. The creature mirrored whatever it saw, whatever it heard. It fed on reflection, on repetition, on copies. So she gave it something it could not mimic. She stepped forward and sang a note entirely off key, sharp, ugly, chaotic, a sound no reflection could predict. The serpent convulsed, collapsing in on itself like a shattered mirror. Water crashed back to the river as the beast dissolved into mist. Tando whipped water from his hair and nodded approvingly. "Remind me never to annoy you during a performance." Their journey continued, now climbing into thinner air and harsher winds. The storm peaks rose above them, mountains carved by thunder itself. Lightning forked across the sky without pause. Zuri clutched her cloak tighter. "The air feels angry." "It always is," Shango replied quietly. His voice softened in a way that surprised even him. "This is where I was born." A sudden blast of wind nearly knocked them from the cliffside. Clouds split open and a massive storm spirit descended, swirling with electricity and rain. Its face was carved from cloud light, shifting, unreadable. Shango stepped forward without hesitation. "Father." Zuri's mouth fell open. Tando spat out a curse, and Makuzi blinked in shock, but the storm spirit lowered its great head. Its voice echoed like rolling thunder. "You abandoned the storm, child of lightning." "I sought purpose," Shango answered, standing unshaken. "And I found it." "You seek death." The spirit's eyes glowed brighter. "Abkulu waits for you. It waits for all of you." Zuri stepped forward fiercely. "We aren't turning back." Nalo's voice trembled. "If we don't go forward, Nyanda will remain in silence forever." The storm spirit regarded them for a long, crackling moment. Then it extended an arm, revealing a path carved through the lightning itself. "Dangerous, narrow, but direct. Walk with courage," it rumbled. "And pray courage is enough." They moved. Each step tested their strength. Thunder slammed around them. Winds clawed at their faces. Lightning struck dangerously close, forcing Makuzi to shield Nalo more than once. Tando slipped at one point, dangling over a sheer drop until Zuri grabbed his wrist. His usual smirk was gone. Fear trembled in his eyes. "Don't let go," he whispered. "I won't," she said, pulling him up with a strength she didn't know she had. They finally descended into the valley of roaring ghosts. Yet there was no roar, only suffocating silence. Gravestones carved into canyon walls stared at them. Thousands of lost voices etched into cold stone. Shadows rose from the ground, humanoid forms with hollow mouths. They spoke without sound, a horrifying mimicry of speech. Nalo stepped closer, trembling. They're trying to talk, but they can't. Makuzi knelt, bowing respectfully to the silent dead. Their stories were taken. A low vibration traveled through the ground. The shadows pointed north with trembling arms. Zuri swallowed hard. "They're guiding us." The shadows formed a pathway that led to a cavern glowing with sickly light. As they approached, Zuri felt her chest tighten. Her voice, the spark within her, flickered painfully. Shango pointed his spear ahead. The maw. Inside the cavern, a pool of thick darkness swirled like tar. Tendrils rose from it, writhing slowly. And above the pool towered Obkulu, vast, grotesque, its body covered in gaping, silent mouths. It felt them before it saw them. The darkness shivered. Then all its mouths screamed at once, but there was no sound. The silence hit like a physical force, knocking them backward. Zuri screamed, but nothing came from her throat. Upkulu lungit. Makuzi blocked its tendrils with massive arms, but cracks spread rapidly across his stone skin. Shango hurled bolts of lightning, which the creature devoured greedily. Tando sped around, slashing tendons of shadow, but each cut regenerated instantly. Nalo summoned illusions of light to distract it, but Obkulu swallowed the illusions whole, growing larger with every one. Omalika stared at her mirror fragment, glowing brighter than ever, reflecting one unbearable truth. "Stop!" she shouted, but only her lips moved. No sound existed anymore. Yet the others felt her voice in their minds. She stepped forward, mirror shard trembling violently in her hands. Zuri grabbed her arm desperately, tears spilling. "Omalika, please." Omalika smiled softly, tears shimmering in her own eyes. "The mirror never lies. This is my road." Makuzi shook his head in agony. "There must be another way." Omalika touched his cheek gently. "You gave us strength. Now, let me give you a chance." Shango's voice was silent, but his eyes thundered with grief. Tando looked away, jaw clenched so tight it trembled. Nalo sobbed openly, clutching at Omalika's sleeve like a child afraid to lose a mother. Zuri collapsed to her knees. "You don't have to do this." "I do," Omalika whispered without sound. "For all of you." She raised the mirror shard above her head. It pulsed once, twice, then burst into blinding moonlight. Obkulu screamed silently as the light tore into it. Omalika walked forward, each step dissolving her body into silver dust. Her voice finally returned, not spoken, but felt. "Tell my story." She plunged herself into the maw. A thunderous shockwave blasted outward, ripping Obkulu's form apart. The monster convulsed, shrinking, shriveling, collapsing into the ground like burnt paper until only silence remained. Then, slowly, painfully, a single note rose. The sunbird's voice. Zuri gasped as dawn spilled through the cavern. Outside, the sky ignited with gold. Villages regained their sound. Drums thundered from distant plains. The wind sang through trees. The world breathed again. But Omalika was gone. They climbed out of the maw at sunrise, the sky blazing in morning colors. Nalo wept openly. Tando wiped his eyes when he thought no one was looking. Makuzi walked slowly, gently touching the ground as if searching for her presence. Shango stood rigid, fists trembling. Zuri sang softly, her voice cracking with grief. But her melody carried across Nyanda, telling the world of the seer who sacrificed everything so stories could live on. And somewhere, carried on a warm morning wind, a whisper answered, "Thank you."